so make sure you jump in on that. But the name of this new series is called 4 Ships. 4 Ships. So what 4 Ships is going to be about, make sure you write that down too. 4 Ships. What 4 Ships is kind of about is this, just like four key elements, or ships as we're calling them, right? To help you live a bright and vibrant life for God. We totally believe that like every single person in here has a gifting, has calling, has purpose on their life, and that's kind of, why we get together actually, is to see how does this purpose line up to what's happening in your life. Like, how can we partner with each other? How can I encourage you to go after your dreams, right? We just finished Dream Chasing with God and everything like that. And how does what you're doing in your dream, how can it encourage me to pursue my dream, right? So getting together, this is what Vibe is all about. This is what we gather around, is we want to see each other live life to the fullest, right? Don't you want to see your friends live life to the fullest amount? And so I'm excited about this particular message because we're going to be kind of touching on, the heart and vision, the heart and soul, vision and values behind all that we do here at Vibe. And I believe too, like Kai was just saying, like, it's going to be a party, doing this 3-year birthday party and service kickoff. Like we're not just turning 3, but I really believe prophetically that we're turning a corner. Right, as a community, we're actually turning a corner into, not just a new chapter, but a totally new season. And so we want to just kind of invite you to start your new chapter in this as well, with us on this. And I always say it, I say it all the time because I really do believe it, that every person has a next step that they can make in life, whether it's like with God or in this community. Every person has a next step that they can take. And I want to tell you guys too that this community will only reach its fullest potential when you're fully in, right? So when you just lean into it and throw yourself into it, throw your dreams, your passions, we want to see your gifts find expression in this crew, in this group, in this family, in this tribe. Amen?
Amen.
Cool. So like I said, I'm excited about this. And before I give you guys the first ship for this 4-ship series, allow me to kind of set the stage for us. Like I was just saying, we believe, our leadership, we really believe that every single person in here has a unique calling. Wouldn't you agree? Every single person in here has a unique gifting, and but I think that we all have a similar struggle as well. Right, there's a struggle that we all share, and I think you'd agree. Life is a struggle at times. Wouldn't you agree? Like life gets hard, life gets complicated, it gets messy, it gets weird. Sometimes it gets complex. But storms of life hit everybody, right? Like storms of life are kind of like these misfortunes, misunderstandings, mishaps. Storms of life often bring in a lot of chaos and destruction and things like that. Something's always going to come up, right? Something's always going to come up in a way where you're just like, man, I just want to quit. You know what I mean? Like how often do you feel like you want to quit? Like a lot. I want to quit a lot, and so it's mad important to be rooted in this idea that we're going to present here in our first ship. But storms of life hit everyone, right? Everyone. We develop sayings in our society, right? Like life happens, that's life. Can you think of any other ones like such is life, or Coldplay, like nobody said it would be easy. You know what I mean? There's always these sayings that's saying like, hey, we're kind of all in this together. It happens to all of us. But for most of us, even though it happens to, storms of life happen to all of us, it's the time that we feel like the most alone, right? When storms of life really hit, they hit, man, and you feel the most alone. But I think the burning point on my heart tonight, the ache in my soul, if you will, that I want to share with you guys is that with God, there's always hope. There's always hope with God. And I don't know what you're going through. I know what I'm going through. And I'm like, oh man, I need to hear this message. I'm preaching this to myself. You know what I mean? I don't know what you're going through. I don't know if life is up and down or if it's just so. But with God, there's always hope. You know, we all have unique giftings. We also have unique struggles. We all have unique storms, and so we're going to kind of look at ways that we can kind of help ourselves in these moments where storms of life really hit and it gets heavy and it gets hard and difficult. You guys can close that if you need to. But I want to, like I said, just encourage you guys just to jump in with your whole heart with us in this new series. I'm excited to share this first ship with you. This ship is a ship that every person sails, right? It's a ship, the ship that makes you human almost. And track with me on this because I'm going to unpack this and it's going to really help you understand. But this first ship is hardship. Why don't you write that down if you're taking notes? Hardship. This first ship is hardship. Hardship is hard, right? Nobody likes hard. Nobody likes when life gets heavy and difficult and hard. It makes the human soul, it has a way of making the human soul just want to shrink back, right? It's hard. It makes us uncomfortable. It makes us uneasy. Maybe you're going through something right now that you can think about and you're just like, that's me right now. This is just it's not easy. Actually, it's uneasy. You know, I feel not at peace in this situation. Hardship. But I want to encourage you guys, and hopefully you guys hear this throughout my message, that every storm that blows into your life actually presents the greatest opportunity to grow, to learn, to love God, to love people at a deeper level in a way that you wouldn't have without that storm. You know what I'm saying? I want to tell you that hardship, if you let it, will actually pull the greatness out of you. The key is if you let it. If you let it. I really believe too that it's in the darkest hours of our lives that the greatest opportunities to shine the brightest present themselves, right? So I had this principal in like elementary school, and every single day he would get on the intercom, you know, and you're in class and you're hearing the school announcements and things like that, what you're having for lunch that day or whatever it is. And every single day he would end his announcements with the same phrase over and over and over, and I absolutely hated it by sixth grade. You know what I mean? Like, I went to this same school like all through, you know, all the way to sixth grade, and I absolutely hated this phrase because you heard it every single day for however many, you know, days in a year kind of thing, over and over and over, but it stayed with me. Are you ready for it? He said, "Have a good day or not. The choice is yours." That's like so profound to teach elementary school. Have a great day or not. It's up to you. The choice is yours, right? And so like I'm like, wow, he's trying to teach us this even as kids, you know, wow, like have a good day or not. Or not. The choice is yours. I think everyone knows in here that you can't control the storms of life that blow into your life, right? I mean, you can't help how people mistreat you, but you can control how you respond to them, right? You can respond well. You can control how you respond in the midst of crisis, in the midst of hardship. How we respond is something that matters a lot. So as it pertains to this particular ship, our first ship, hardship, why don't you write this down? You're either sinking or you're sailing. You're either sinking or you're sailing. And I think in my own life, I can tell, I know, like there's moments where I'm just like, I'm just sinking. I'm going down with the ship. I'm having a bad day. I hate everyone, you know. But there's days too that you know that moment where you're just like, I'm going to rise up. Like this is not going to ruin my day. You're either sinking or you're sailing. The choice is yours, right? Have a good day or not. The choice is yours. So I'm going to tell you, don't make it hard on yourself. Why don't you tell the person next to you, don't make it hard on yourself. Don't make it hard on yourself. So when I was kind of preparing, I was trying to think of ways that, because I know I do this, ways that I've made things way harder than they needed to be. And so I was trying to think of an example, and I always include my lovely, beautiful hot wife, Miss Amy James. And so I was asking her, hey, can you think of any examples of when I've made things just way harder on myself? You know, like, have I ever? Can you think of anything? And she looked at me like,
how big of a book did you get?
Yeah. She's like, are you sure you want to go down this road right now? You want to have that conversation? And I'm like, maybe not. Let me. I'm gonna stay focused. No. We'll have that conversation later. No, but for whatever reason, I love remaking the wheel. I don't know what it is, but I always tend to make things harder on myself for whatever reason. But do you have a friend where you're hearing kind of like, you're hearing what they're going through, and you're hearing how they're dealing with it, and then you're just like, dude, you're making that way harder on yourself than you need to. You know what I mean? It doesn't need to be that hard. Like, yo, just break up with them. You know, like, let her go. You know, like, you're making it way harder. Like, I'm just trying to be real. Just trying to say it how it is. You know what I'm saying, though? You're seeing, and it doesn't have to be like a guy-girl situation, but they're just making the situation way harder than it needs to be. Like, stop complicating it. Just you're making it way harder. So I used to have this bad habit. This is a more of a lighthearted example that I came up with. But I used to have this terrible, terrible habit where, and maybe you have this habit as well, where something would go wrong. Right? And I would say something like, I would throw my hands in the air and say, this would happen to me. Have you guys ever said that? No. I would say, yup, only me. Like, this is my life. You know what I mean? Like, whatever the case was, like, I would say, of course, this only would happen to me. This is my life. You know what I mean? Whether I drop something or, like, get pulled over, you know what I mean? Like, whatever it was, I would always, that would be my first thing out of my mouth was, yep, of course. This always happens to me. This would happen to me. This only happens to me, right? I remember vividly having a day where I'm like, something bad happened and it was like not even 8 a.m. yet. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, I see how it's going to be. It's going to be one of those kind of days. You know what I mean? I'm like, fine, all right. And it just totally set my mood for the whole day. You know what I mean? Like, okay, that's the day it's going to be like, and inevitably, and I think you would agree, inevitably it would be that kind of day, right? It would actually turn out to be that kind of day where it's just all going to be bad the whole time, all day bad, you know? So the more and more I kind of looked at this and kind of was having some self-reflection time, the more I voiced how terrible the situation was or that particular storm, the more I voiced it, the worse it actually got. You know what I mean? Like, the more I voiced my, like, discomfort in the way of, like, of course this is going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, this only happens to me. Like, and it's not even 8 a.m. yet. Gosh, like, they couldn't wait till 8 a.m. to blow, you know what I mean? Like, the more I was complaining about it, the more my attitude kept staying, like, in that, you know, bad area, the worse the day actually got. Got way more. So in this concept of you're either sinking or you're sailing, I was basically taking buckets of water into my boat, just dumping them into my boat. Just, you know, I'm just, this would happen to me, of course. You know what I mean? I'm just sinking or sailing, and I'm sinking. I am sinking. And one of those kind of days are hard to turn around, right? Like, where you just, man, you're just going through your whole day and you want to just flip everybody off. You know what I mean? Like, you're so mad at the world. You're just like, don't smile at me. Don't you know what kind of day I had? You know what I mean? This is a crazy morning. You know what I mean? Like, those kind of days are so hard, you know, to turn around. And it feels like every time you know, go into conversation, the person that you're talking to would just say the one thing that was salt in your wound, you know what I mean? And it's the one thing that would just poke the bruise, you know what I mean? It just hurts. And so it got worse and worse. And storms are hard to deal with already, right? Storms of life are just difficult in general, but let's not make them harder than they need to be. Let's not make them harder than they need to be. I thought about calling this message, Call It What It Is. Call it what it is. Why don't you turn to Acts 16 real quick. If you got your Bible, if you're writing something down, write that down, Acts 16. So let me give you the backstory on this so we can kind of jump right into what we want to hit. There's these two guys named Paul and Silas. I'm sure many of you guys know this story. Paul and Silas, they were doing what they felt like was God's work, right? They were going around praying for people, preaching the gospel. They were doing what they felt like was God's work, and they totally were. But the people at the time were like, "Yo, like, why are you guys doing this? You know, like, you guys are ruining our like way of life. Like, stop preaching the gospel. Like, stop doing this. Stop doing signs and wonders." So they actually arrested them, had them beaten, right? And not just like beaten, but like rods, and like they're stripped naked. And they're actually thrown into these like inner cells where it's like the inner cell, which is like the deepest dungeon, right? So that's kind of where we're going to jump into this story. But these guys had all the reason to be upset, right? These guys had they had the reason to be like, man, this day just sucks, man. Like, I can't believe this. We're trying to serve God, and now we're getting stripped naked and punched in the face. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, God, this just sucks. Like, these guys had a perfect reason to be upset and to be mad, but they chose the opposite. There's a choice, right? There's a choice. Have a good day or not. The choice is yours. They chose the opposite, and they let hope fill their outlook on life, on their situation. So I'm going to read this verse 23 if you're following along. So it says, they were severely beaten, right? We talked about this. And they were thrown into prison. The jailer was ordered to make sure they didn't escape. So the jailer put them into the inner dungeon, right? The darkest, deepest dungeon, and clamped their feet with in stocks. And then verse 25, this is where we're going to kind of hang out here. It says, around midnight, why don't you say midnight? Midnight. Around midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God. And this is my favorite part here. And the other prisoners were listening. I love that. I love that. The other prisoners were listening. And suddenly, there was a massive earthquake, and the prison was shaken to its foundation. All the doors immediately flew open. How many of the doors?
All of them.
All the doors flew open, and the chains of every prisoner fell off. So Paul and Silas, like I said already, they had the reason. They had, if anybody could say, man, this day sucks, they could do it. They were having a hard day, right? Wouldn't you agree? They were having a hard day. They could be like, man, this sucks. This is stupid. You know, we're just trying to serve God. This is a terrible day. If anybody had the opportunity to scream at God and say, what the heck, God? Have you ever said that to God? What the heck, God? What are you trying to do? Kill me? What are you trying to do? Why, God? Why are you doing this to me? Why is this happening? Why did you let us get into this mess? Right? Why did you let us get into this mess? So when it comes to hardships, what we call it will be the effect it has on us. Let me say that again. What we call it is the effect it will have on us. Right? So if the storms of life, if we give them a negative label, they'll have a negative effect on us. Right? This is how we make things harder than they need to be. Right? You stub your toe and you're just like, this is the day that it's going to be. All right. And then now your stubbed toe leads you to, having this huge disagreement with an employee, or an employer or something like that. Like we're making it harder on ourselves. So it's a great fear of mine tonight that you would live your entire life without knowing this one thing. That your voice is actually the most creative force in nature. Your voice is the most creative force in nature. It says in the Bible that the power of life and death are in the tongue. The power of life and death are in the tongue. So what we call it, our storms of life, what we call it is the effect that it will have on us, right? So one of the keys, we're talking keys, right? We're talking ships. One of the keys to living a bright and vibrant life is getting God's perspective on your hardships. Getting his perspective. Have you ever thought about what does God think about this right now? Most of the time we're just going through it. So your head's down, you're plowing, you know what I mean? You're not thinking of that. But I want to call you to this. I want you to actually begin to get in a habit of actually seeking God's face, seeking his perspective on your storm, on your hardship. I want to tell you too that God is so hopeful about your current situation. Yeah. He has so much hope because why? He sees it from a different angle, right? He sees it from a higher plane. He's so hopeful about the thing that you're struggling with, right? He's so hopeful. He's saying, oh, I know they can make it. I know they can make it. He's so hopeful. He sees the big picture and he's inviting us up to see the same. So I want you to try this, right? So why don't you write, try this. Try this. This is take home homework. I want you to try this. Write down instead of asking why, ask what. Instead of asking why, ask what. I'll explain what I mean. I think it's human nature to just like when something terrible happens, you want to know why, right? And you're just like, why God, why? Like, why God are you doing this? Why is this happening? Or why me? You know what I mean? Like, why does this happen to me? Why is it happening now? So my challenge to you is this. Instead of asking why, ask what. I want to challenge you to ask what. God, what are you doing in this storm? What do you want me to learn? What are you trying to teach me right now, right here in this moment, right? What can I learn? What can I do? I'm finding for myself, God rarely answers my why, God, why? But almost every single time, he answers my what. God, what are you doing? And he's going to say, this is what I'm working with you on. This storm is not meant to kill you. This storm is not meant to put you out. The storm is actually meant for this. You know what I'm saying? So when you ask why, you're actually coming to God like you're standing over him like, why is this happening, right? Like, why is this happening? But when we ask what, it's more like, way more of a tender conversation. You know that you are the clay in his hands, and you're just like, God, what are you doing? What are you, like, I want to know what I can do to grow in this situation. What is happening? What can I do? When we choose to ask what, you begin to see what God is doing in the storm. You begin to see what he's doing, and then you begin to actually share his heart and say, oh my gosh, I see this storm isn't just to kill me. This isn't just to make me have a bad day, but this is actually a blessing from God. This is a moment where I can actually overcome my fears. This is a moment you begin to apply a label that is going to affect your day, right? I said your voice is the most creative force in nature. When we share God's perspective, we begin to actually say, oh, okay, this is a place of growth for me. This is a way that I'm actually going to be able to see that God so cares for me. This hardship, this storm of finances, I'm actually going to be able to see God come through for me and God provide for me. This is an opportunity. right? And this is what it looks like to actually sail rather than sink in these hardships. So how you see it and what you call it is how it will affect you. Our perspective on our hardships, on these storms, are key. The perspective is key. Now, have you ever seen a storm from above? Like above the clouds? Have you ever seen it? Like whether you're in an airplane or a picture, or you've seen a video, or a satellite image of a storm that's brewing. It's kind of beautiful. It's kind of insane how marvelous and majestic it is when you stand back and you're seeing like, oh my gosh, like this is so well orchestrated. Like it's almost beautiful. It's almost like a work of art. From above, it actually looks like a masterpiece. Right, let me say it like this. So I love art. I love going to galleries. But there's a lot of times where I'm at galleries and I'm like, I don't get it. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't get it. You know, have you ever been to a gallery and you're just like, dude, this looks like a kid painted this. You know what I mean? Like, are you sure I should be paying $20,000 for this? No. You know, like, this is like so lame. I don't understand it. I don't get it. Like, who makes this type of? How do you pay your bills making this kind? You know what I mean? Like. But there's always somebody, right? And this happened to me before, but like there's always somebody that you're with that's saying, oh, no, you're looking at it all wrong. You're missing it. You're looking at it all wrong. Let's take a step back. Take a step back. And once you do, it starts to take form, and you actually begin to understand it. You actually begin to appreciate it. You actually begin to see the beauty in it. Right? Perspective is everything. Perspective changes everything. The same is true with the storms of life. A hope-filled perspective will lead to a bright and vibrant life. When you see things the way God sees them, man, there's no stopping you. There's no stopping you. So I want you to tell the person next to you real quick. Say, you shine best. Why don't you tell them that? You shine best in the darkest hour. Now say it all together. You shine best in the darkest hour. So why don't you write that down if you're taking notes? I shine best in the darkest hour. So let's jump back real quick to Paul and Silas. Paul and Silas, right? They're in this prison. Everything's rattling. Everything's going crazy. They got worships. They're having church in prison, and stuff is happening. God is moving. Something is happening. Something is rattling. Everyone becomes free, right? My favorite part, though, like I said, is the prisoners were listening, and the prisoners were listening. I imagine them kind of like their ears against the wall, or kind of trying to look around the corner as much as you can with the bars there. You know what I mean? The prisoners were listening. I want to tell you that your friends, your family in life, they're listening. They are listening. They're watching and waiting to see how are you going to respond to your darkest hour? How are you going to label this situation? I want to tell you that how you respond might just be the key that they need to experience freedom in their own life. They're watching you. Your storm isn't just about you. It's way more about you. Your storm is not just a mess, but it can be a message. Amen? Like your mess, the storm that you're going through, it looks chaotic, but the way that you respond can become a message to the people around you, a message of hope. So let your life be bright in the darkest hour. I believe too, like the people around you, most of them are actually longing to know, hey, this hope that you're holding on to, that you're a Christian, right? Like this hope that you're holding on to, is it real? Like, is it actually real though? And they're asking that question because if it's possible for you, then it's possible for them. You know what I'm saying? If it's possible for you, then it's possible for me. If that amount of breakthrough is possible for you, if you can have that much peace in that storm, man, maybe it's true for me as well. The other prisoners were listening. They need somebody like you to tell them that their situation looks hopeful. From God's perspective, it looks hopeful. And this is what it means to be prophetic too. You know what I mean? Like you share God's heart. You're seeing from God's perspective, hey, everything's going to be all right. This is what God thinks about you. This is what God says about you. With God, there's always hope. So I'm not saying to be fake and, just butter them up. You know what I mean? Like nobody wants that. Like don't tell them that their situation is just going to be okay. Like you're going to be all right. I'm not telling you to be dishonest. I'm actually challenging you guys to be even more honest. To actually tell the truest truth about their situation, about your own situation when you share it with them. The truest truth is there's always hope with God.
Yeah. Like, no, I'm not okay, but...
Exactly. It is hard. It's a hardship. You know what I mean? But I'm going to get through it. You're going to get through this. There's always hope with God. The Bible says that He works all things together for our good, right? Yeah. And so that's a message we need to hold close to our heart when it comes to dream chasing, when it comes to hardship. He's going to work it all out for good. It's going to be good. You're going to stand back, and you can do this today. You're going to stand back and say, oh my God, this is a beautiful piece of art. My life is a message. Can be. So imagine what your life would look like if you were to actually get into this habit of asking the Lord instead of why, what, and how. Lord, how can I see my hardships in a way that is hope-filled? What can I do to grow in this moment? Help me to see from your perspective, and then help me to help them see from your perspective. How can I help them see from your perspective? Help me show that with God there's always hope. Why don't you write this down? Every hardship can be hope-filled. Every hardship can be hope-filled. It's probably for me. It's all good. I thought about putting in here, and I took it out, but I'm obviously putting it back in. There's a movie called Hope Floats. Have you guys ever heard of this? Hope Floats. Super terrible movie. Don't watch it. It's cheesy. It's like all of our moms probably watched it. But hope floats, right? Like this line I just told you to write down. Every hardship can be hope-filled. And even if you're going through the worst storm of your life and you're saying, buddy, I'm already at the bottom. This is the end of the day, and I've had a hard day. I've had a hard past 2 weeks, a hard month, a hard year, man. I'm feeling shipwrecked. I'm feeling like I've already sank. I want to tell you, hope floats. It's not too late. Like I said, with God, there's always, say it, hope. There's always hope. So we're going to wrap up here. But it's interesting that the freedom for the captives began with worship, right? When Paul and Silas began to lift their eyes from the wind and the waves of things that were going on in their life, from their current situation, began to lift their eyes to the Lord, God began to break off chains, guys. The same is true for us. When Paul and Silas chose to, set their sails in the midst of hardship by lifting up prayer and praise, it was almost as if Paul and Silas said, they put on the captain hat and said, no, we're not going down with this ship. We're not going down this easy. It's like they decided to captain a ship of hardship and actually steer it into worship. right? And I think that might be month 2, installment 2 of our ships is worship. Worship is powerful. Worship actually will make you attractive, right? Like it attracts not the storms of life, but it actually attracts blessing in your life, right? And so we're going to be talking about how worship actually you'll be able to feel God's presence in your everyday life, not just on Sundays, not just when Buddy and Amy are up on stage playing music. You know what I mean? Like in your everyday life, you're driving your car, even in the midst of storms, everywhere you go, you can actually feel the presence and pleasure of God in worship. So we're going to look at that. But today, I want to challenge you, I want to challenge us to step into this, to choose to have a good day or not. That is your choice. I can't make it, you can't make it for me. It is your choice. Have a good day or not. But begin asking God, okay, what are you doing? Instead of why are you doing this to me? Right? This honestly is how Christians live. And it's funny because I'm not living this all the time. Like I'm still trying to figure this out. You know what I mean? Like, but this is Christian living. You know what I mean? And like even if you're in this place and you're like, I'm not yet a Christian, but I want to try this out. Try it out. I dare you. You know what I mean? Like maybe you haven't been with God in a really long time. I dare you to try this out. Begin to say, I'm gonna have a good day or not, but the choice is mine, right? I'm gonna begin asking, okay, God, what do you want me to do in this situation? How can I respond well? What are you doing? Rather than throwing up the why. This is Christian living. The key to living a bright and vibrant life in the midst of hardship is having a God-given, hope-filled perspective. So I believe, I totally know every person in here is going through something. You know what I mean? We all go through life, like I said. But if you're going through something and you're just like, man, I just need somebody to pray for me. Stick around, man. Tell us. Like you can tell anyone in this room will probably be able to pray for you and help you. But you're not alone. You're not alone. In every storm, there's hope. Every hardship can be hope-filled. So I want to encourage you with that. Let's go after this together.